I think throughout Richmond Hill, live music fits in well with that. And the balance too, I wanted you to also talk about with Strickland and his detailing his situation because you and I did the article for Hip Hop DX when we announced your MS diagnosis, and then for Strickland, really going into detail about his health situation. As somebody that's done it yourself, speaking out about your health status, but then also seeing Strickland do it, what do you think is the value of artists really detailing and explaining that?
Well, let me first say he wrote a completely different verse for that song, and after listening to it, I went back to him. I've never done this to him before. I was like, "Yo, I think you need to scrap that verse and write something that's a little bit more closer to home." The song was called "Life Music," and you just went through some really serious, life-threatening situations, and so I know for him it was tough to go in and kind of figure that out. But he came back with this verse, which I think he was more detailed than I was expecting him to be. Um, but that was his truth, and I wanted him to express it the way he wanted to. I wasn't asking him to necessarily be as detailed about what happened specifically, but I just wanted him to speak from that perspective of being happy to be alive and you know, considering how close he was to something horrible. And but he delivered. He wrote a dope verse. Excuse me. He wrote a dope verse, and I know it wasn't easy for him to write that, but I'm glad he did, and I think he's glad he did too because it's gonna potentially help a lot of people that hear this song and maybe went through life changing or life threatening illnesses or whatever, to say like, yo, he made it, I can make it too.
And what was the content of the first version of the first iteration of his verse?
It was just some regular rap stuff. It was just some regular rap stuff, just some stylistic bars. You know what I mean? And I was like, yo, this ain't really.
And had he heard yours or no?
He heard mine. He heard mine.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the song is better served the way it ends up because I think Strickland's, I mean, it's super powerful like yours, and it's very in sync with the song, and then how he talks about being so happy and grateful to be alive. Um, that was always uh one of those lyrics like Andre 3000 when he said asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, and she said alive. And I was always like, I'm fortunate that I always have thought of my life being a long one. Obviously, things can happen, and I understand that reality, but I also plan ahead and I also think about that. And hearing those type of things give you it's a stark reality and reminder that not everyone feels and thinks that. And we both know a lot of people that either died early or didn't think they were going to make 21 or didn't think they'd make 25. So hearing these reinforcements that is still a very prevalent mind state is interesting, which ties to me in a lot of ways into the Brooklyn Heights song, because on there, when you say, if I need advice, I ain't asking a hater. And given that even our friends sometimes aren't the best influences or don't give the best advice, how did you come to that reality and understanding for yourself?
Man, just life experience, life experiences with people. I mean, we all have different friends that are at different levels. We have friends that we just like to hang out with. They make us laugh. They're fun to be around. But then we have other friends that, we really respect their perspective, their point of view. And I don't know, I just feel like over these in these adult years, I've just kind of become, more clear about what what our what our relationships with people mean, and they mean different things depending on who the people are. Some people have just a really simple purpose in your life, and some people have a much deeper purpose in your life, and you just have to figure out what that is for each person.
Hmm. Yeah. And as a rapper, I wanted to know too, with Brooklyn Heights on there, you reference Pickin' Boogers by Biz Markie, and
Yeah,
you don't say it explicitly. So as a writer, and you've done, of course, that throughout your career, it's not isolated to this song. But when you do that, do you feel an extra sense of, oh, I got that off even now? Or is that, do you still get a sense of excitement or like accomplishment when you do that at this point?
it's you know what, I, it just felt good to acknowledge Biz. I didn't feel like there hasn't really been a lot of acknowledgement in terms of lyrical content from artists. I actually wrote a song that was supposed to be on the album called Dear Biz. And it's going to probably be part of the bonus, what do you call it, the deluxe version of the album. You saw Biz's documentary, so you heard that rhyme already. Um, but this is I did that acapella version, but there's a version to a beat as well. And so we decided to use that for the album. And first I tried to see if I could get maybe one of the Juice Crew members to, lend the second verse to it. I asked Kane, asked Craig, like nobody was really nobody was in I mean, it was really close to when he passed. So in all fairness, like they just weren't in a place to write anything, and I understood that, and I respected that. And it's not, you never know. Like I might ask again before this deluxe version comes out. Maybe I get a different answer. A different answer. We'll see.
Well, that would
But
be dope.
I wanted to acknowledge him.
Well, too, with Brooklyn Heights, in addition to acknowledging him, you also did you know or hear the versions with Marco Polo putting Biz's voice in there, sprinkling it throughout the whole song, or was that something later that came in?
That was something later that came in. I believe Marco's good friend Shiloh, who mixed most of the album. He did a lot of those little bits and bobs, the scratches, like a lot of those little elements that are in there. He kind of came up with those things, and that was those little biz stabs that are in there. Like that's something that he came up with, which I thought was really dope. Um, and yeah, it was after I laid my verse though.
Okay. And then also with Richmond Hill, you got the certified song. And the thing to me that was the most interesting about it, from your verse in particular, was the beat. So what that beat to me, as somebody who's listened to almost every single song of your career, probably, uh, I was very surprised to hear you use that beat because it's a very unusual the
It's
way
different.
it's very different and it feels different. It comes off different. It has a lot of movement to it. It's not as much of a static type of beat, and I'm sure you know what I mean. But what, given all that, what was it about that beat and that production in particular that appealed to you?
Well, let me first say Marco felt the same way you did. He didn't even he had no plans on even letting me hear that beat. Um, his boy Shiloh, because he was going to actually send it to. He's working with some groups in Colombia, some rappers in Colombia. He was about to send it out to them, and Shiloh told him, "See what Ace thinks." And I'm glad he did because as soon as he sent it to me, I was like, "Oh, I like this. I'm all over this." He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." Trust me, I said immediately, like I had ideas for the flow, the cadence, everything. I was like, I'm gonna kill this. He was like, okay, like, but he definitely had no faith in the fact that I was gonna hear that beat as different as it was and be like, yes, this is a go. But as soon as I heard it, because I like a challenge as a writer, as an artist, I like to be challenged, excuse me. The typical, boom bap sounds, that's really where my bread is buttered. But I like to stretch myself, outside the boundaries of the typical, hard kick, hard snare, and just see what else I can do, as a writer. Like what else can I, do? So this beat was a great challenge for me. But as soon as I heard it, it wasn't even a no brainer. I probably wrote it. I probably wrote it the same day, because I liked it that much.